So one of the many ways that you can use Code Composer Studio and TI's resources to your advantage is to actually use their example libraries. There's many ways to get access to them. One of them is through here, the Resource Explorer. I personally recommend going in there and looking at stuff, but for today, what I wanted to show you was kind of the quick start here. So they've actually added this in new versions of Code Composer where you can go browse and import examples. What's really nice about this is when you actually boot up Code Composer Studio, if you have your board plugged in like I have a G2, it immediately detected what board I had plugged in. And I can say, okay, let's use that. It puts in what I'm using. This is the launchpad I have, and I can hit next. And look at all the resources you get. So for example, if I wanted to blink an LED or get an out of box or kind of get a basic example for things like the graphics library or the math library, they're there. There's also worlds of just examples for things how to use like the clocks, the ports, timer A, all this other stuff like that. So this is one of the ways to really get access to all the different resources that you have here, and don't be afraid to use them. This is probably one of the main reasons that people typically like TI products, is their documentation and the amount of time that they've put into culminating all of these resources for you. One of the other ways to get access to this, though, is let me close out of the project wizard, is in getting started, you can go over here to Resource Explorer, and it'll open up a tab, which brings you up to the web-based version. So this is essentially a copy of what you would find online. If you look up TI Resource Explorer, you would be brought to the same thing. I wanted to show you this as well because this is kind of a more traditional way to navigate around. So let's say that, for example, I did not have my MSP plugged in, and I wanted to find it. If you actually go here and say type any board, and I type in MSP 430 G2553, your device will pop up. And what that does, it says filter updated, and over here on the left, it actually filters out what you actually are looking at. So if I go over here to, let's say, device documentation, all of a sudden I have access to the user guide, the errata sheet, the data sheet. If I go one level up, I believe, I don't know if they'll give you the family data sheet. That might be under something else. But at least you get the user guide and the data sheet. Oh yeah, this is the family users guide. And it's right here built in, ready to go. As for software, you might see this little category called MSP 430, where that's just kind of their nickname for all of their resources for the MSP 430. And there's all sorts of stuff here too, like they have the MSP 430 or the MSP Academy, so you can look at all the different stuff. But here's what I care about. We're going to go to Devices, and then down here, there's two options here. There's something called Middleware, which feel free to go look at that if you want. I'm going to use the peripheral examples. You have two options here. You can look at the examples in assembly, which literally will give you the assembly code to do whatever you want. So in this case, we are using one of the comparators. Or personally, I think for a class like embedded systems, you all are typically looking at C level or assembly, either or. So let's say I wanted to look up really quick. I wanted to use the USCI port or the peripheral to use a 9600 baud UART connection. Right away, it brings you to the example code, and you can quickly look around, see what's going on. You can just take looks as examples, or my personal favorite thing, I don't know. Maybe I want to use this and change it up, so I can go ahead and hit import. I have to actually install the projects here. You all might have to do that too. But what that would typically end up doing is allow you to import it into your workspace to use it directly. So with that, that's kind of the ways to get access to all the different examples. And if you're a little confused looking at the names here, one of the key things that they want you to do is if you click at, let's say, the register level folder, it literally tells you every file and the names here. So that way you don't have to take a guess. So you can look down and see, yes, I'm working with timer A. Let me look at these different things. So with that, I hope this really helps you get started with the Resource Explorer and finding examples within Code Composer. Remember, you're not the first people in the world to want to use these types of devices and to do simple things with them. In fact, I would argue that one of the biggest selling points with many microcontroller producers and companies is to help you want to use their devices. They want to help you get started. So these resources are out there for pretty much every microcontroller company that you can think of.